Okay, here we go again, and today you could probably guess what we're going to be doing, which is feeding the worm bins, right? So I've taken a number of items out of my freezer in preparation for this feeding, and I've placed them into this bin to let them start thawing out a little bit, because everything's pretty much frozen solid. But that doesn't matter, it'll thaw out in due time in the bin. But you're also going to notice that I've got some of these quote-unquote forbidden foods in here, pineapple and citrus. Well, you know, in this quantity, I don't think they're going to pose any sort of a problem. We'll put this aside and we'll grab the first bin and we'll start feeding. Now the first bin is going to be the oldest bin that I have. It's the February 16th bin, and this bin is extremely active, but I always had this feeling like this bin was leaps and bounds even ahead of that bin that had at least 2 or 3 weeks head start on this one. So you could even tell just from the appearance of the surface, just from opening it, how well processed the castings are. I'm just continuing with my regular heavy feeding schedule, but in this case, since it is nearing the end and it is going to be time to harvest it soon, I wanted to just do a special kind of feeding here, which is basically setting the bin up for a horizontal migration. So it's pushing things off to the side so that the feeding zone can be moved to one of the far ends of the bin. What we're going to do here is we're going to create a space for the horizontal migration, set that up, and then this will be on its way to being harvested at some point in the near future. But I don't think I have any more cobs of corn in here, so let's move on to setting up the horizontal migration. I'm going to set it up over here. I'm going to start moving everything over. And there's no signs of anything other than castings in here. I mean, naturally a few chunks of large bedding here and there, chunks of cardboard that haven't been consumed yet, but other than that, it's all just rich castings. Very well processed. And I don't know if you saw my last video there too. The idea there was to section off only maybe a quarter or a third of the bin for the purposes of doing this horizontal migration. But wait till you see what I created for this. You're gonna love this. Ta-da! I had this box laying around and some other cardboard, so I thought that if this went in here like so, oh man, who's the geek now, right? I thought that this would provide at least some sort of a delineation between, you know, where the castings are and where the new feeding zone is. So let's give this a try. I'm going to start moving over some of this material. Man, look at this piece. I don't even have a place for it. I'm going to have to start breaking some of these larger pieces in half. But wait, hold on. Before I add the food, I wanted to lay in some sort of bedding material here. So for that, I put some newspaper into a little bit of water, and I've been letting this soak. So I wanted to start just by adding a little bit of dampened newspaper to the bottom of each of these little segments. Okay, now that was enough food. We'll bring all the corn. One, two, continue. I can let it. All additional feedings that this bin gets from this point forward are all going to happen over on this side, and in due time this side of the bin will hopefully become depopulated. More stuff here that they can munch on, bedding type materials and stuff like that. Alright, so one last little bit here was some garden compost out of my garden composter. It's basically leaves and grass clippings that have been composting together for like 5 to 6 weeks. But let's give the little youngsters a break. Let's just put in some grit, just in case some of our new guests are younger and require it. Alrighty, I think that will do. And let's just give this zone a little extra cover. That, and I guess we'll just go back to using what was previously used to cover the whole bin up. Let's get back to the original sheet of paper that was covering this one. You know what? We might as well just stick to the old tradition of keeping the coffee filter in their feeding zone. Don't want to confuse them. Suddenly they don't see their coffee filter. And you know what? For now, I'm going to leave this one uncovered. And then I'll also give the opportunity for the done castings to also dry off a little bit. So horizontal migration on my oldest bin at this point is underway. Just go to the normal feeding zone, which is in the middle of the bin. See, the coffee from the last feeding hasn't really been disturbed very much. And here's that nut, or chestnut, or whatever it is. I keep putting back in there for them. So let's see what the corn is doing in here. Oof. Here too, it looks like they're making their way into some of it. Some of the pieces, they're squirming in and out of it and hanging all around it. Usually underneath it, it seems to be the place to be. I would think that once they really get their chomps on it and they really start working it, it's not going to last long. So it probably is a good idea simply to proceed with the feeding as planned today and just add some more food. I really just don't want to create a glut situation where they, I guess they start fleeing because there's too much food or whatever the case may be. Well, you know what? So the other one gets consumed last time, I'm going to again. And if things go the way they did in the past, probably should grab the warm lines, get out here 4 days, and just go back down the corner. So let's go ahead, proceed as planned. We'll those with the forbidden foods in here too for them. It's a lot of everybody. Okay. Let's go ahead and cover this up. Something for eating, enjoying. Still finding cranberries in here for all these months. I never had cranberries since that one time. And there's some, they instructions. Either more starch in them, or I'm going to have a skin or something. So I check that out. Try to rupture the cranberries. I think at some point they'll get consumed. It'll be done. I got a feeling it might be okay for me to wait about 7 or 10 days until the next feeding at this point, because these bins are going to be very well fed. really not much difference from bin to bin. They're all very far along. It almost seems like they could all just get harvested immediately. It does not seem like there's much more for them to work through in a bin like this. Going to try to excavate some of the material from the very bottom along with the occupants, just to make a little bit more of a gully for them to get their food into. I got this one chunk here that kind of frozen together, and put the whole thing right in here. And we'll just flank it with a little bit of forbidden food scraps. Try to be fair, give them a little bit of this since they seem to like it. And that's it. Let's put these boys up again and yeah, I'll tell you, these bins have pretty large populations. They seem very comfortable. They seem to just expand in size as soon as I put them into the bins. They just ravage through whatever food I give them. Hard to keep up. Although after this feeding, I think we're going to be set for quite a while. At the moment, this is the only shallow bin that I'm using. In the beginning, that was the only kind of bin that I used, but now I've kind of moved over to the deeper bins almost entirely. And you can see why. Here, you know, if you want to push things up and make room, there's really not a lot of space. The last time I was preparing to use my castings in the garden, I just wanted to make sure that I gave the worm population a chance to exit before I use the material out in the garden. So I think the majority of the worms in this bin were all residents of the of my last larger collection of vermicompost. And I believe after I do the next harvest, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab my entire collection of vermicompost and set it up similarly in a bin like this to give the chance an opportunity to exit the material. Not vertical migration. Set them up for a horizontal migration like what we did before, just to let them exit the castings. The material. Alright, so we've stirred the pot up here pretty good, made enough space, hopefully, for a few pieces of melon. And like that, besides melon, they're getting banana too. Just with the abundance of so many delicious summer fruit right now, buying bananas just doesn't seem right, you know, so haven't had any bananas around the house lately, mostly stuff you only see in the summer being consumed around here. Even this banana has been in the freezer for some time now. Yeah, this guy got the limit, the peel, which saves, you know what? Yeah, we've been here too. Being awfully generous. Wow, look at all this sweet stuff. They're gonna love this. I'm not even gonna notice that there's a couple limes or pineapples in here. Okay. Probably also a great deal of moisture being added to the bin each time I feed this way. I'm starting to wonder if I should leave all of the bins uncovered, like maybe with just the newspaper. I might allow for a little bit more evaporation. So you can see real as it is right now with the frequent feedings. It's not overly damp, but maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just accustomed to drier material. Hope all the rest of this fits into the last bin. So the last bin is the one that we launched only a few days ago. It's only a few days old, and it was already set up with a couple good-sized watermelon rinds to begin with. But I'm just going to go ahead and feed it like all the rest of the bins. And, you know, in honesty, the number of worms that were added to this bin were quite a few. It was a very large number of worms. Different people have commented on the estimate on how many, but many thousands of worms, it was estimated, were plopped into this bin just a few days ago. Yeah, they should be really making their way through those watermelon rinds that I gave them a few days ago. Ooh. Okay. Yeah, they were really ripping into it. They seem to like it. Good thing. Okay. There's another piece of it. Oh, it's so thin I just put my finger through it. Oh, this is the newest bin. So that's part of the reason you see so many large chunks of leaves and stems and all the sort of stuff that I included in my build. So let's see if we can fit all the rest of this food. There's a pretty good sized piece of melon. All they get because it's not gonna last. It's not gonna last for long. Summer's great, but it does not last for long. Alright. Very good. Guess we're just done. Put down your green scraps for them. That'll be about it for today. To go update my records, show when stuff got fed today. And I should be able to kick back for a little while and not worry too much about these guys for a while. Alrighty. Alright everyone, thanks again for coming along. I appreciate your company. And hopefully you enjoyed the worm spottings. That's it for now everybody. Take care, have a great day. Give it a thumbs up if you liked the video. And we'll see you next time. Bye.